Hello and welcome to Instablog's Global Report, business winnings, fresh updates and more citizen voices from all over the world. As the international community meets in Copenhagen to negotiate a political solution on how to share the burden of reducing the emissions that are causing climate change, Associates from across the globe sent us reports on the effects of climate change in their own regions and the steps being initiated by their respective governments to restrain the impact. With Mexico accounting for 1.5% of the global emissions, which is nothing much compared to India or China, Associates from Mexico dwelled on the impact of climate change and President Philip Calderon's commitment to reduce the emissions by 15 million a year till 2012.
With heavily polluting oil industry, heavy use of road transport, and over 110 million people, Mexico accounts for about 1.5% of global emissions. Not much when compared to China or India, perhaps, but big enough to make Mexico a leading player in the rest of the developing world. On the flip side, Mexico and its extraordinary biodiversity is also very vulnerable to the impacts of global warming. Long coastlines, much of which have been stripped of the natural protection afforded by mangroves, are especially susceptible to increasingly violent hurricanes. Deforested mountainsides are prone to collapse under unusually heavy rain. Massive river deltas are threatened by major floods, and huge swaths of semi-arid land are at risk of tipping into desert. Calderon insists that Mexico is an ideal bridge between rich and poor nations immersed in bitter arguments over emission targets in industrialized countries and financing for adaptation measures and green technology in the developing world. To prove his point, Calderon stunned the world last December in Poland when he promised that Mexico would cut its own emissions by 50% from 2002 levels by 2050. This was followed up earlier this month with a commitment to reduce emissions by 50 million tons a year between now and 2012 when he leaves office.
Our next speaker from Jordan, Wada Buzurek, reports on Jordanian royalties call to a fair, effective and ambitious deal regarding climate change at Copenhagen.
This is Wada Buzurek reporting for the Instablog's from Jordan. A fair, effective and ambitious deal regarding climate change is what Queen Rania and Princess Haya of Jordan have asked to be targeted in Copenhagen Summit as the new climate allies to join the international climate campaign. Queen Rania stressed the concept of human impact of climate changes, which will be of great effect if global warming continues to affect the agricultural aspect, which many people depend on for a living, thus creating the need to migrate. Princess Haya, on the other hand, confirmed the collective responsibility of everyone to make this work, and consequently help humanity survive. These remarks were reported while keeping in mind the great effect of this issue on the whole world in general, and the Middle East specifically, which is heavily threatened by desertification.
Like many other third world countries, Kenya too is at the front line of climate change, which is not only a threat to its GDP but also modifying weather patterns, leading to frequent droughts or flooding. Sija Rose Wangui throws light on Kenya's share of problems.
This is Rose Wangui, a citizen journalist from Kenya, reporting on Instablog. Eyes worldwide are now focused on Copenhagen, Denmark, as the climate meeting opens today. It's obvious that Africa has done the brunt of climate change, and being a Kenyan, all I can wish is to see a fruitful deliberation that will save us from the wrath of a polluted environment. So far, President Obama's strong commitment on the issue of climate change and his global leadership is pivotal to the negotiations in COP15. Right now, Kenya's GDP is at threat due to climate change and risks losing its gains by 3% by 2030 if remedial measures are not urgently taken, not forgetting Mount Kenya, the region's one of the largest snow-capped mountains. It has now been left bare by the effects of global warming and could end up losing the ice completely by 2050 due to these effects. More reason why Kenya should come out of the meeting with a deal is the fact that the climate change will have a negative impact with increasing water shortage for urban and irrigation consumption, substantial loss in hydropower with an estimated annual cost of $66 million leading up to 2050.
According to the State of Uganda Population Report 2009, published jointly with the United Nations Population Fund, countries in Africa's Great Lake regions will experience a rise in temperature, severely damaging agriculture and livelihoods of rural communities, unless human activity causing climate change is checked. The John Kibuche says that the women will be at the receiving end of this change.
The average temperature in Uganda will increase up to 1.5 degrees Celsius over the next 2 decades, severely damaging agriculture and livelihoods of rural communities. The State of the Uganda Population Report 2009, published jointly with the UN Population Fund report. The increase will significantly reduce land suitable for growing coffee, Uganda's leading agricultural export. The report also forecasts major disruption in rainfall patterns and the increase of both flooding and drought, and cautions that farmers in the East African nation will be unable to adapt. It urges that women in rural communities will be more affected by climate change because as the country gets hotter and rainfall more erratic, growing sufficient food will require more work. Ugandan women, who are primarily responsible for food security, will need to work harder to secure basic resources. They will therefore have less time to secure an education and earn an income.
As the summit starts in Copenhagen, the Asian Development Bank is considering channelizing $700 million to help developing countries counter the negative impact of climate change. In Pakistan, the militancy, ongoing war on terror and deforestation are threatening the environment. CJ Karim Khan says that a lot needs to be done.
This is CJ Karim Khan on Instablogs from Peshawar in Pakistan. As the United Nations Climate Summit starts in Copenhagen, Denmark today, the Asian Development Bank is considering to channel $700 million to help developing countries counter the negative impact of climate change. The funds, when sanctioned, will be spent on developing and improving clean technology like alternate energy sources and energy-efficient infrastructure. In Pakistan, where militancy, ongoing war on terror, and deforestation are threatening the environment, a lot needs to be done. The Asian Development Bank has previously been active in supporting development projects in the country. When it comes to the environment, the donors will need to make sure that the funds are utilized in developing more than paperwork. Due to the country's peace and security situation, working in troubled areas may be very difficult for some time. It is therefore important to run any environmental-friendly environment projects episodically, like keeping small and readily attainable goals when the socio-political environment in the country is favorable. Ideally, the project should have independent monitoring and evaluation teams that cannot be influenced by self-interested elements in the country.
If you want your voice to be heard by millions, let Instablogs be your choice. You can contact us at cj@instablogs.com. That's all for today's show. This is about the special updates and more citizen voices. Till then, goodbye from the entire team of Silver Report.